Hi, my name's Yingying Han. I am actually the second presenter on the schedule list. So the report I have today is titled Open and Not Very Linked Data, Metadata Quality in Art Museum Datasets, a review and case study of example datasets from a data analyst perspective. Sorry, it's a long title. So before that, please allow me to have spend a little bit time introducing myself. In the coming fourth semester, I will be a third year PhD student in the School of Information Sciences in the University of Illinois. So my research interest falls in the community-based cultural preservation and digital cultural heritage. Generally, the question I would like to ask in my research is how do community members identify and understand their culture? How do they want to preserve their culture? How technology and help or does not help in this preservation process? And link open data is definitely one of the technologies I'm very interested in. Though I have mentioned from a data analyst perspective in my report title, but honestly, I don't really identify myself as programmer or a data analyst. So my research, as you may see, focus mainly on people, community, individuals, but I started learning Python around 2 years ago. So I did a little experiment on the data I can have access to. Then I find my passion force on the data. I have 1,000 questions about the data, but only learning Python or programs that can help me answer these questions. That's why I continue learning the programs, but I don't identify myself as a programmer. So my original research ideas is this is not a project I originally planned to do. My original idea comes from a conversation with a Chinese mom who has two sons. So the elder son was born in China and was sent to the United States at the age of 7. And the second son was born in the United States. So though the two boys grew up in the same family, they have totally different self-identities about where they're from. The elder son has identity crisis and is not sure he is Chinese or America and refused to answer these questions. While the younger son is definitely sure he is an American and refused to be a Chinese. So every time in summer when their parents bring them back to China for traveling purpose, he would clearly told his mom that I'm going to your country and this is not my country. This lead me to further think if I am an Asian in America, if one day I bring my child to a community museum or museum in the city, are they able to see the exhibitions or objects that represent diverse culture and which might be helpful with their identity crisis if any. So I find American Art Collaborative. It is a consortium for 14 art museums in the United States committed to establish a mass of link open data on the semantic web. This is actually a course assignment half a year ago. So for my project purpose, I pick up 3 museums at that time. Which are Gilcrease Museum, Princeton University Art Museum, Smithsonian American Art Museum, which I highlighted in red on the left side of this slide. So the original purpose of my project is to extract and analyze the geographic information of the museum objects using the link open data. The geographic information include continent information, country, and state information. I like this data life cycle, but later I found data analysis and integration can not only offer feedback to data planning, but also data description, which is the purpose of my report today. So if you go to American Art Collaborative on their GitHub page, you can see they publish their their metadata in open link data format on GitHub under CCO, so we can freely reuse them. So they publish the datasets by museum. If you go to Princeton University Art Museum datasets, you can see they publish many data models, and the first file is datasets. If you go to the first file, you can see they publish their open link metadata in JSON format. But the question comes here. There is no data documentation published. So as a data for analysis purposes, I have to guess which file is the one I really need. But I think I have a correct guess here, because this one, which is circled out, is named API OBJ, I think means object geographic America.json. So the first thing I do in my project is to create a data documentation for each data set I'm using in my project. So I highlighted some of the data documentation dimensions in red because these are the parts that I really want the data providers, the metadata providers or creators can give me an answer. The first is, what is the authorship, attribution, and provenance of the file? I want to know the stories happen to this file. And of course, I don't want to infringe your copyright, so you need to let me know authorship. And the second is most important, please at least offer thematic content. What is the thematic content of the file? So when I can pick up the correct file I'm going to analyze. Lastly, I would like, from a data analyst perspective, I think a code book would be important, including a description of what each column is describing, and a description of the data value and units present. I'm going to show later in my analysis process to prove that why this matters a lot and the reasons for missing value. It's not hard to calculate how many missing cells are there in this file, but data analysts cannot answer why these data are missing. This is an answer that can be best answered by those metadata creator and curators. So it would be great if in the data documentation, they can have a clear answer to each of the questions. In all, I analyzed 48,598 records, geographic records. This is not a big data set, honestly, but in the future, I might include include more. Okay, can I see the chat? I'm unable to see the chat. Do I have some? Oh, sorry. Okay, so let me continue. I thought you can't hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. So I actually create data cleaning documentation for myself. I would really love to share it. I write down each step of my cleaning process. So I describe from what is the purpose and how I did it. If I writing a code, I would write down the out file name, because this is a project I have done. I did half a year ago. So this is a great documentation after half a year for me to review what I have done long time ago. And this is also a great documentation. In the future, we can take it out and analyze what other data problems we have. So I'm going to introduce the problems I find from three aspects. The first is interoperability. So Princeton University Art Museum offer the geographic information of the objects as well as GM. So Gilcrease Museum, they they describe the object's geographic information, but publish the datasets in different format, which are JSON and CSV. And I also see some other museum in the consortium publish the data in XML format. So, but Smithsonian American Art Museum only offers the geographic information about the artist, which means you can know where they were born or where they died. So even though the three museums are working together under a SAAM consortium, and they are working hard on developing a standard data structure, we can see there are still like interoperability issues in terms of data structure and data format. And on this slide, I summarize from what aspect they are describing the geographic information. It's not consistent, but some fields are consistent. For example, three museums all describe the geocode, which is on the third rules of here, geocode or ZXRE type, etc. But geocode actually means what kind of place you are describing here. Is it a place the object was made or collected or excavated? But the problem comes to this field is consistent in three museums. They are not using the same controlled vocabulary. Second is some data values like this one of like 0900 offered by Gilcrease Museum is not without further data documentation, I can't understand what's that mean. And then some data value like cultural area. I know what cultural area mean, but it's a kind of vague concept. So without further documentation, I am not able to make a decision on if I should include the records of which use these data value in their geocode field into my analysis. So this actually proves why data documentation and why from the metadata creator's perspective, it's so important to provide explanation to the control, to the data values if there are not many options. So this would help me to make better decision on deciding which records I should include in my final analysis. Okay, a quick summary of the interoperability issues is we can see they're using similar but still different data structures. Some fields are consistent, but using different control vocabularies, and the lack of data documentation brings extra challenge for future analysis purpose. The second part is I want to analyze the completeness of the data sets. We can see Princeton University Art Museum actually did a very good job. They're describing the geographic information from many dimensions. You can find the continent information, country, state, city, county, river, excavation. Okay, from there are many informations offered here. But for Gilcrease Museum, they summarize the country names. They're mixing the country, state, city values in one column and title it a term. So it would be hard for me to identify or separate the city names from state names. I have to give up here. But luckily, they offer the longitude number and latitude number, as well as Princeton University Art Museum. But this is not the case in Smithsonian American Art Museum. Why I mention the numbers? Because I found to create a complete geographic record, these two numbers in pair are actually most important markers, because using some Python packages, which is open source online, after writing a few codes, you can easily generate the city, state, county, and country name from the longitude and latitude number in pairs, like I showed on this image. The last column, US, is the country name saved in an ISO standard. Then if I use another package named country convert. With a few codes, I can generate the continent values using the country name as a source. So, so my opinion here is longitude number and latitude number are the most important markers in order to create a complete geographic metadata record. I let her calculate how many of the record in each data sets that has continent value, country value, and state value. Because Gilcrease Museum are mixing those values in one column, so I am not able to do the calculation for these data sets, so I write not applicable here. And also I calculate how many of the records in each data set has longitude and latitude values in pairs. If we go to this figure, we can see 48% of Princeton University Art Museum has longitude number and latitude number in pair, and 67, almost 68% of the data sets in Gilcrease Museum have it. And if we look at this gray bar, which represent Smithsonian American Art Museum, they're doing a great job in terms of offering the country, state, and city values to each record. It would be great if they can also include the numbers, latitude and longitude numbers. So a quick summary here is longitude number matters a lot. I see many incomplete records include this pair of numbers, but does not include like city name or state name or country name or continent name. So I'm wondering, is it possible in the future we can develop like a program which is intuitive and interactive? The metadata creators or curators just need to input the numbers, the longitude and latitude numbers. Then the program could automatically generate the other geographic informations for them and save it out in either JSON or CSV format. Then if with this in hand, we would not require the metadata creators or curators to have much programming like skills in order to create a complete geographic metadata record. And with more Python knowledge I learned, I feel this is definitely practicable. So the last aspect is accuracy. If we say there are 7 continents in this world, then 99% of the records I analyzed gives the correct, accurate continent value, which is great. So I add the numbers here, like representing how many objects are from each continent. But data analysis is not the focus of my presentation today, so I'm going to ignore that. But it's very interesting to share. But for those that does not have continent values, what are the main reasons? So I'm sharing these picture here on the right side of the slide. The rows highlighted in yellow are the correct continent values. But here are the main 3 reasons for inaccuracy. First is misuse of an area name or city name. For example, Central America is not a standard continent name, or United States is definitely not a continent name. Or typos, for example, North America, means R before TH will make this record inaccuracy record, okay? And uncertainty, for example, Europe with a question mark. So uncertainty is more commonly seen in country and state values. So here I am listing all the uncertain values here. But in my opinion, we can see from here that Smithsonian American Art Museum offers more unique country values and state values compared to Princeton University Art Museum. It might be because Smithsonian American Art Museum remove the data uncertainty while they are describing it. For example, on this slide, you can see, in my opinion, it's definitely fine. We need to keep the uncertain data because this is the piece of information we want the future researchers to be aware of. The curators are not sure where this object is from. But I am wondering if it is possible we can standardize the way we describe the uncertainty data values. On this slide, I'm using different colors to represent different ways they are using now to describe the uncertain values. Some curators like using OR to connect all the options. But even though some curators would add a comma after the first option, like the first one on the right side, but this is not the case in this record. Then some curators like using a question mark with brackets, but some don't have a brackets and there is no a space here. Some would use possibly an area or probably or reportedly found or said to be to express the uncertainty. So it's definitely fine to be uncertain, but my opinion is if we describe it in a standard way, for example, we all use the word or to connect the options. So it would make it easier for the future analyst to identify the uncertain value or to modify the value for their analysis purpose in the future. The other inaccurate reasons which lead to inaccuracy country and state values include if we will use acronym or not. For example, we use USA and some curators use United States or USSR, right? So, and typos is another reason. It's Illinois instead of Illinois, okay? So these are the typos, decrease the accuracy rate of the data sets. So let's go to a quick conclusion of my report is I summarized the link open data quality issues from 3 aspects. From the interoperability perspective, they're having similar but different structure, different control vocabularies, and the lack of data documentation brings challenges to the analysis. And to create a complete geographic metadata records, longitude and latitude numbers are important. And if it is possible that to increase the accuracy for data analysis, if we can standardize the method to describe uncertain data values. But there is a clear document limitation of my research is I can identify the quality issues here, but I cannot answer for what reasons that might lead to the poor data quality. For example, I can see their interoperability issues, but I don't know why under the same in the same collaborating team, the museum still having problems with like using the same data standards. So I'm thinking in the future, future study could focus on the using qualitative method to identify reasons lead to the poor data qualities from organizational and individual levels. And thank you.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. You've got just a ton of questions because people love geodata. It's kind of my takeaway from this. So thank you so much for your presentation. We have about 7 minutes before we're scheduled for a break. So I'm going to fit as many of these questions in as I can and then leave them in. And then if you have some time to put some questions in, to answer questions, we can leave you as a panelist and you can type the answers to these. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So this is kind of a quick question, I think. Have you considered using OpenRefine to regularize your metadata?
Yes. When I was doing this project half a year ago, I haven't learned OpenRefine, but recently I'm cleaning some other metadata records. I am using OpenRefine. It is more, I prefer using OpenRefine and it speed it up. But before I was using this project for me, is also a process for me to learn Python, and I think this is a process. If you're not very, if you're still in the process of learning programming, this is a chance for me to using this small project to learn more skills to for identify the data quality issues and solving it.
Thank you. There was a follow-up question that I think answers this. So your cleanup project was run in Python. Was this the project that spurred you to learning in Python, or were you already working in Python? So I think you already answered that in answering the last question. So brilliant. So here's a comment from Jackie Shee at the Smithsonian, which I think is good. This presentation shows deploying URI or for geo names without long lat in source metadata. Web tools can follow URIs to the source vocabulary. And these sites offer RDF endpoints to obtain the desired data to process for display or manipulate. And I think that's probably, that's a good point, Jackie. Thank you for that. We can use, we can follow, use URIs to follow information to their source to get that data. Let's see. And also, Chayla reminds me that we aren't taking a break for some time. So we should have, sorry guys, I made a spreadsheet to help me figure out time zones and everything. I'm in California. That's my only excuse for why I don't know what time it is apparently, but we have plenty of time until our break. So there's a bunch of different questions about like what the lat long mean, about precision. So one of these questions is, at what precision and at what choice of point does one choose latitude and longitude? For example, a city located in a county located in a state or province, a province located in a nation. Does one choose the midpoint? And there's a number of questions that are kind of along these lines about what does it mean when you're choosing a coordinate? What level of specificity are you going for, and how did you balance those types of decisions in your project?
So I would use the longitude number offered in the data sets, and the reverse geocoder package in Python could give me the country name, but not the continent name, the state name, city, and county. So they would be detailed until county level. I think I am not able to make a decision on how detailed on geographic information it should be, but it's decided by the package I use. For example, I tried another package named geocode instead of geocoder, so they would not include the state information in their output. I think, yeah, so you can, depending on what you need to select the proper like reverse geocoding packages in Python.
Thank you. Let's see, just scanning through questions here. Okay, so are duplicate names of different locations on the world protected efficiently so that mistakes are avoided? So yeah, so like all of the different Columbuses in the United States.
Right, so So that's why we need a complete data record, because they might have the same city name, but different state or country name. But if that's why longitude and latitude numbers matters here, right? So we so you so I would say the more complete the record is, the best we can avoid the data duplicates in this case.
Thank you. Here's a question regarding the different data sets. Did your country conversion using latitude and longitude numbers, did that have to be run on each data set individually because they were so different? I assume that this is the case, but wanted to check.
Still can using. So there are different ways. When I was doing my project half a year ago, I processed them separately, but but later I figured out actually if the data sets was in just XML, or CSV, if they are in different format, I can firstly convert them to CSV file. Then I can extract those values with longitude, latitude numbers in pairs. Then I can do the conversion in one step. So that might save more time. So I did it separately at the beginning, but I later figured out some ways to do it at one time, which saves a lot of time in the future.
Great. Here is a question. Have you considered looking at data sets from non-US museums where labels will be in a different language but still use geocodes?
Yes, that would be great. I am Chinese, so I am, but I don't feel like back in China they are now publishing the museum metadata records in house to make it open access. So I would love to explore more data sets outside the US if there is a chance. And also a follow-up of this project is I'm wondering like if the diversity of the museum objects would differ in different areas in the United States. This is also a question we can try to explore using the current metadata records. Yeah.
Thank you. So this is sort of a this is a follow-on to the choice about where you make your point. Kate Bowers says that she's been thinking about adding latitude and longitude to descriptions of buildings. So to get to the main entrance, the midpoint of the building footprint, etc. And then says that SAAM Archipedia was working on something that would specify the midpoint of the building footprint. Have you been thinking about things with that level of specificity? So this is kind of a different aspect on the kind of city state sort of thing, and getting down into sort of the nitty gritty of within a building, sort of look on this aisle type thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can answer this question correctly because I select continent, state, country, city, city information for because I want to see how many objects are from Asian countries. So I select those dimensions to serve my analysis purposes. So I'm not sure if it is necessary. I think from my project, I'm not able to answer that if it is necessary or practical to include the building information into the geographic records.
Right, that would be a different project. Where is the material residing right at this moment?
Right.
let's see. Have you considered, or have you resubmitted your cleanup work back to the original data sets as a merge or pull request on GitHub? That might not be easy, but seems feasible to send your work back into the whole data set.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't. This is, yeah, that would be very interesting because I think I did a data cleaning to another museum, but that museum is not in the AAC, and on their GitHub, they are not currently accepting the other users to push their cleaned data sets back. Depends, I think it depends on their institutional policy, and it might bring them extra work, you know, to add the cleaning data and merge the cleaning data into their current data sets. But I would really love to share that. Yes.
Yeah, that's the dream, is to be able to share that.
Yes, but I think there are also some other decisions to be made if we want to merge the cleaned version on my side with the version on their institution. Is, you know, for my analysis purposes, I delete some rules that does not has any geographic attributions or geographic values. So I actually, from based on their version, I delete some records. But is this what they want in their institutions? If it is possible, they think even though there is no data values we can give about this object, but we still want to keep this record. So I think it's not only about if I want to share the data sets with the institution, but more conversations should be made on what kind of data sets we want to offer to the future users and to what extent, like how clean it should be.
This is again a variation on the question about variability in names and locations. Did you encounter any instances of U.S. cities where the county seat was in a city with the same name, and how did you handle that?
I didn't, because this is a course assignment, I didn't include city name in my project.
There we
that,
go.
because that would be very complex.
There we go.
It is worth a try.
Yeah, yeah, and there certainly is an awful lot of that.
Yeah.
Here is, for now, a final question, although I think there might be some things in Slack. I haven't gone off there and looked. We really are trying to get Q&A into Zoom Q&A, just to funnel all the questions into one location. So if you have an opportunity, if you have questions either for the speaker or future speakers, be sure that they get put into Zoom Q&A. That really helps your humble moderators quite a bit. I wonder what part of the collection being described in the metadata influenced the entries made. For example, PUAM holds many anthropological and archaeological materials which are much more difficult to describe when compared to works of art in the SAAM from modern eras.
Yes, that's why I point out the limitation of my research. I feel like although Princeton University Art Museum, SAAM, Smithsonian American Art Museum, they are all art museum. They are all working under AAC, but you know, publishing their metadata in a standard format is more. We need to explore more about what are the barriers in the organizational level, collection level. It's not only a technical issue that if we can transfer the data to a standard format, it's more, you know, I think it's more a social and organizational issue, and regarding how they communicate, how they find out the different features of different collections.
Okay. I'm not seeing anything in chat for right now. If you guys were over at poll everywhere. We want to invite you to give a hand to our speaker. Yingying, thank you so much. This was a really great way to kick off our segment today. There's just a lot of wonderful content here. If you have a chance to go over to chat, over to Slack, there was a lot of really great conversations about how wonderful your information was. And so thank you so much for sharing your research. It's kind of formative research, but I think it was really great. And people, as I said, are very excited about geodata. I think we are going to go ahead and break early. So why don't you guys come back here? We'll be starting again in about 20 minutes. This has been fabulous. Anything that my other co-hosts have to add here at this time?
Just that we're keeping trying to run a tight schedule today, so we'll be starting at Rosie will be starting at 1/4 the hour.
Yep.
Right on time.
Yeah, so yeah.
If all goes as planned.
We will be sticking to the schedule online, and we may not have as much time to answer Q&A, so be sure that your questions are put into Q&A and upvote any questions that you particularly like. Okay, we'll be back here soon. Thanks, guys.